Hi, I'm Alan Benner from the Welland Tribune here with Mayor Frank Campion, and we're talking about some of the issues in the city over the past month or so. I have some questions from readers I'd like to start off with. Hi, Frank.
Good morning or good afternoon. Sorry,
Good afternoon.
time's traveling fast here.
Yeah,
Pleasure to be
absolutely.
here, yeah. I'm
All
ready for
right.
any questions you might have.
Okay, we've got a couple readers that are sent in some questions. One is regarding off-campus rental properties, concerned about bylaw enforcement of, they say, 3 students per household. Just wondering if what your take is on that.
Yeah, well, that's something that I've been getting quite a few emails on as well, and talking to some of the residents out in that area. So we do have our town and gown committee that's working on it. But at the same time, I've gotten back to our management, Gary Long, and some of our senior team, just indicating that we need to step up our efforts to enforce our bylaws. And if we have issues with the bylaws that make it difficult to enforce, we need to change the bylaws. So we're on it, and it's a matter of just ensuring that we have the authority to go in, and as I say, if there's an issue, we need to fix the issue so that we can certainly get in there. We've stepped up enforcement on other levels as well, as far as parking and that sort of thing goes. So we're taking it seriously and working towards getting some solutions to this.
Are you aware of any issues with more than 3 students, like some of these places that are?
Only anecdotally. I mean, you can't look at the outside of a building and tell how many people are in there, although you can count cars and so on. But we need to be able to get access into the buildings to be able to determine how many people are in there. And I think that's one of our issues, is trying to get into the buildings for, to have a look. So I just had a meeting this morning with Gary indicating, we've got to figure out a way to be able to enforce our bylaws, or there's no point having a bylaw. And so we're working towards making sure that we can enforce whatever bylaws we have.
Absolutely. This has been a long-standing issue. I mean, as long as probably the college has been in town, but certainly over the past few years that we've seen it increase in popularity.
Yeah.
But it seems to me we haven't had. I mean, I remember a few years ago we've had massive parties and real extreme disturbances. I've not heard of any yet, although not to say there haven't been.
Yeah, I think the police are working very closely with the municipality and with the homeowners out there. So they're very good at getting out. If there is a problem, they try to get out there ahead of it and make sure that they are monitoring the situation. And at the same time, they're preemptive, so they are distributing information and ensuring that people know that these types of large parties won't be tolerated, and if they get a call, they'll go out and enforce the laws. So yeah, I think it's enforcement and letting people know what they can and can't do.
Excellent. Okay, moving on, property standards. We've got some questions about bylaw enforcement regarding, garbage, junk left out, especially on, a few of our major roads, Lincoln, Prince Charles Drive. A reader calls it horrendous. Is there something that can be done to help out these people?
Well, I think each one of them may be an individual type of an incident. So it really depends. We get questions with some of the student residences with garbage, just leaving things out. So we work with the region on those types of issues to ensure that the homeowners and the residents who are living in the houses understand what the rules are, and we go in and we tidy it up. Then we have illegal dumping, which is another problem, where they're just dumping on the sides of roads and so on. And so that's shouldn't be tolerated. The problem is trying to find them. And I can tell you that in a lot of cases, when they're picking up the garbage, they do try to find out who dropped it. So if there's something that's an identifier in the garbage, they will go after those people, or the people that have dumped it, and go after it. So again, we are continually, from a regional perspective and the city perspective, cleaning up after people who are dropping stuff that they shouldn't be dropping. So of course the solution is to stop people from dumping the garbage. And it's an ongoing problem here, but in Welland, but also across Ontario. You see it all the time. And so we just, again, have to step up the enforcement, ensure that we're following through in the bylaws.
So messy yards, essentially, that falls under property standards. I believe that that is based on complaints rather than just patrols.
Right. So when we're talking about that, if you have a neighbor that's got a mess in their backyard, certainly we do send out our bylaw people to deal with those things. One of the problems with that is there's a period where we have to, where we have to give them notification. We need to give them a certain length of time to comply, go back and check to see if they have complied. And then if they haven't, we need to go to court. We've got to go through the court process and win, and then we can actually go in and do something. So it's not a simple matter of us just being able to step into somebody's backyard and start removing things. We have to go through an entire process before we can do that. So again, the bylaws are there. I think we are doing not a bad job of enforcing them, but we're restricted by the court system at the same time. Before we go in there, we want to make sure that we have good, sound reasoning to get in there, that we're compliant with our bylaws and with provincial laws to ensure that we're not breaking the law by doing something wrong. And they say quite often we end up in the court system, depending on the judge or whoever's hearing it. They may side with the homeowner and say, well, for you it's a junk, for him it's not. So it's a very difficult problem.
Absolutely. Do you know if we have any ongoing investigations currently, or?
I'm not aware of any,
Okay.
but that doesn't mean we're not following up on them. I would guess that we probably are. I think we're in and out of the courts all the time on these issues, so I would imagine there's a lot of it going on.
All right. We've got a few questions related to the budget, which you've actually just, we have a meeting tonight regarding it. One question I'm sure you've heard many times, why do our property taxes keep going up?
Well, it's a complicated issue, and it's a very simple issue. We could talk about this for a long, long time, but I'll try to get it as quickly as I can. Really, the taxes continue to go up because costs continue to go up. So we live in a province in a country where we have inflation. It's very low inflation, but everything costs more. Virtually everything costs more, from labor to supplies to virtually everything across the board. So to put it in really simple terms, if we want to not have an increase in taxes, we have to eliminate something from the budget. So a service or a facility or something like that. So that's the one issue, is just costs continue to go up. And so if we want to stop that from happening, we've set a certain level of service that people expect. And so we say, well, we're not going to have pools this year, so we're going to shut down St. George's Pool for the summer. And of course, we can come up with a zero. However, it may not be palatable to the public. So let's say, crossing guards. We can eliminate crossing guards, but how does that go over? So we end up with that situation where people are saying, yeah, okay, you need to cut it, but don't cut that, and don't cut that, and don't cut that. So in order to maintain the service levels, we have to incrementally increase. The other part of that is we have a huge deficit in our infrastructure. Part of that deficit could be attributed to not increasing taxes, or not increasing taxes enough in the past so that you don't have enough money to pay for your fixing your roads and your sewers. So there's always that point where you've got to get caught up. And so we're very fortunate that we're getting a lot of money from upper levels of government, but we have to kick in our share of a third. And so again, people want their roads fixed or their sewer fixed. They want the backups to stop, the water mains to stop breaking. It costs money. And so we can reduce the amount we spend on infrastructure, but you're not going to get the service that you need. So that's in a very simple way. Just costs are going up in order to maintain the level of service. So, and we're going to have a meeting tonight on the budget,
Right.
and there's public input. And, that's what we need to hear. If somebody says, hey, you shouldn't, why don't you shut down a pool? I'd like to hear that. See how many other people are in favor of that. And I'm not just picking on pools, but any service.
Right. We have another question related to the budget, basically complaining about spending on the most pointless things when there's so many major things that need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a reference to things that we could probably live without when we have, as you said, this giant infrastructure deficit. So what's up with that?
Well, it depends on again, what someone think might be unnecessary may in fact be necessary. So it really depends what you're talking about. We have invested a lot of money in the past, so we've inherited a lot of expense for facilities that we've built, things like the Young Sportsplex or the Flatwater Center. They're, worthy projects, but we've accumulated debt on those, and so that restricts what we can spend our money on. Mm-hmm. We have them. What we try to do is make them as viable as possible. If you we get a lot of flack over the big LED screen. It costs the city $50,000. It costs the hydro $50,000. We're going to be putting on a movie for Halloween this Friday.
Right.
Hocus Pocus.
6 p.m., I believe.
6 p.m. Hocus Pocus. There'll be free hot chocolate, and there'll be popcorn available. But so we're trying to use that as something that the community can enjoy. I can tell you, in our first 2 months of operation,
$11,000.
over $11,000
Stole the thunder there.
in revenue. Yeah. So I mean, it's
10 months and it'll more than pay for itself.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah.
it's going to take some time. But it's generating revenue, and so it's something that essentially won't ultimately come off of the taxpayers' back, but provide them with something that they can enjoy, provide some revenue, and allow us to communicate better with the community. So, it's always a balancing act. What should we spend our money on? What shouldn't we? And you've been through a lot of budgets with us, and you understand that decisions have to be made. And you just decide where you're going to spend your money. And of course, they say some things are legacy issues where you've inherited something and you just have to deal with it. You can't knock things down. You still have to pay the debt. So we'll try to balance that out as well as we can.
Okay. That $11,000 in September and October that came in through the sign, is that split between Hydro and the city, or?
There is a formula. I don't know exactly what the formula is, but there will be a formula associated with that.
It will be split, though.
I think what it would do is part of it would go into an energy efficiency fund, or what I forget what they actually call it. So you continue with this type of project.
Right. Okay, and on-street parking, cars parked on both sides of the road, making it difficult to get past, especially in the winter.
Right. So that's again, depends on what street you're talking about, how wide the street is, and so on. So as you know, in the winter, we actually prefer people not to park on the street so we can get our snow plows down there. But it does cause a problem, and you can look at that in two different ways. So I live over near Jennifer Court, and so Loyalist kind of winds around there. And so we can have cars parked on both sides of the street. The bad part is, it appears as though it can, possibly be dangerous, but also slows traffic down. So you don't have people rifling through neighborhoods. Now, in other places, it is a big problem. You can barely squeeze through, so it does become very dangerous. And in those particular cases, we need to go out and say, well, are we going to restrict parking on one side of the street or on the other side of the street? You've seen, and we've done it, but more and more that's happening, where we identify, yes, this is a problem here. You can't park on this side of the street. And of course, then you're going to have problems with people that live in these houses that park on the street. So again, you have to be very careful to make sure that you're addressing the safety issue while working on the concerns of the people that live there. If they can't park their cars somewhere, that's going to cause a problem as well.
All right, that's excellent. That's about all the time we have today. Before we go, though, we have a budget meeting tonight, a public meeting. What
right.
time does that start, and where is it going to be?
The public portion of input and the information session starts at 4:30.
Okay.
Then I believe we start with a special council meeting just to deal with one issue tonight at, is it 5?
5.
5 o'clock, and then right into the budget meeting from right after that meeting until whenever we're done with the budget meeting. So
All right.
I'm looking forward to seeing, what the public has to say about the budget. We've heard some of it today, and
Right.
again, some of those bylaws they want to talk about, they cost money to enforce as well. So.
All right, we're looking at a 3.46% increase to start,
Yep.
just on the city's portion, balanced out to what, 1.7, I believe? With
Yeah,
the
it comes
region
into
and
just a little
province?
bit under 2% when it's blended in. There's still some information to come in, so that we're not quite sure about that 3.47. We're expecting that to drop based on, we're being very conservative. However, then we have decision units we'll then add on to that. So
All
we'll
right.
see where that ends up.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and I'll be following you over to City Hall in a short time.
Yeah, look
All
forward
right.
to that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
This is Alan Benner from the Tribune signing off. We'll probably be back with the mayor in a month or so and continue where we left off. Thank you.